All right, welcome to today's video as I'm focusing on the bankruptcy exemptions in the great state of Alaska. Never gone. I hope to visit. I actually wouldn't mind living there, just being outdoors type. I know for a guy from Miami, that's going to be kind of rough, but hey, it's a beautiful state, right? So maybe one day I can see Aurora Borealis, right? Northern Lights. So as we get into Alaska and we talk about the exemptions, there's a couple things you need to know. First, as you can see there on the screen, I'm going to post links to the bankruptcy trustee. So you have that contact information. I'm going to have the actual blog post as well on the exemptions. And I'm also going to have the contact information for the bankruptcy court in Alaska. All right. So you can get all that in the same, just go down to the description. You'll see it down there. All right. Now, as you can see here, I posted how many filings were done in 2024 to date. As you can see here, look at the substantial difference between Chapter 7 cases that were filed and Chapter 13. Usually that's the tail sign that all of a sudden you're going to have a high exemption when it comes to the homestead exemption, right? We always want to protect our homes and any other assets, but when the numbers are that far apart, typically it's because the homestead exemption is pretty good. So here's what I did. First place, look at the homestead exemption. It's 72,900. Not the highest, but not bad at all. 72,000 is at least it's a decent number. Some states have ridiculously low number, and I'll get into that in other videos. But what I'm doing here is I give you an example. And actually, let me first jump over here. Research, research, research. I put that there. When I wrote my bankruptcy law textbook, I found out a lot of credible sites did not have the information up to date on the exemption amounts. And then you come across articles written by lawyers, just a website for their own law practice. They typically don't update that information either. So sometimes you have to go straight into your particular state, look up the statute, make sure it is not, another website that's actually getting and just copy and pasting the statutes. Make sure it is directly from your state to make sure you get the most up-to-date numbers. I consistently see wrong numbers, and sometimes it takes a lot of research for me to make sure that I've got the right number. All right. But as we can see here, the exemption is $72,900. Now, what I did here was I got the average home price and I got the average mortgage, right? And I'll put in the links, you can look that up too, because I cite directly those two references. All right, what you see here is a difference is we have a difference of $74,447 that has equity in the property. Are you going to have a problem with your bankruptcy petition? Well, the first thing you have to do, right, is you have to see. And now let me try the stylus here. I don't like this stylus. I like the other computer I have. So forgive me. But you see here, this is the exemption amount, right? $72,900. You have to subtract that from the equity. Doesn't give you much, right? We're only talking a difference of 1547. Now, technically, can the trustee say you have to pay back the amount that's not protected? Absolutely. Right. But the problem is, I always like to tell clients and debtors and whoever emails me on these issues that realistically, there's a lot of work. It's not just like you say, give me a check and then the trustee has that money. First place, they're only taking 25% when the numbers are this low. There's my stylus. Hold on. Wow, that's horrible, isn't it? All right. Well, no stylus when it comes to writing numbers, but it's 25% of what they get. Now, the problem with that is, are they going to do all that work because you have $1,500 that, let's say, is non exempt? No, it is just too much work involved. It's not something that's going to be interesting to them. So sometimes you're exempt even when you're not exempt. Now, when the numbers are negative, let's say there's no equity on the property, the equity matches the exemption amount, then the answer is you're also protected. So a lot of times people get confused with negative equity. You see that more with cars, right? You say, well, I owe 15,000 on my car, but my car is only worth 7. That's fine. There's negative equity. There's nothing there for the trustee to get. All right. So that's simply how exemptions work when it comes to the state of Alaska, at least when it comes to the homestead exemption. I do list other exemptions here for you to look at. This is something that it's not the norm. I think there's a total of 18 states where you have the option of picking the federal exemptions under the bankruptcy code or the state exemptions. Which one are you going to pick? I don't know. Depends which one is more favorable to you. So, for example, when it comes to the state of Alaska, you see here all the amounts that are protected. right? Now, tools of the trade, let me talk about that real second. And I'll put a blog post for that as well. Tools of the trade is another exemption that you get on top of all the other exemptions, but it has to be related to your business. So for example, what's my business? Laptops, right? Typically that's the only asset lawyers have. But let's get a little more complicated. Let's say you're landscaping, right? All that equipment is expensive. Well, some states don't offer tools of the trade. For example, Florida makes no distinction between that and just personal property. So if you have a landscaping business, right, you have the sit down mower, the blowers, all the stuff costs a few $1,000s, the trailer, all that's just part of the full package when it comes to bankruptcy, and that would include all your personal property. But there are certain states like Alaska that separate that. And you see that here with the 3780 additional exemption. So, regardless of whether it's, as you see here, personal property, jewelry, or even your car, you have this additional exemption of almost $3,800, which helps you protect a little bit more. So that's great because, again, tools cost money. It doesn't matter what business you're in. My laptop, this laptop was about 2 grand. So if I was in Alaska, I'll be fully exempt. Why? Because again, I'm going back to that negative equity. I'm entitled up to 3780. I only have $2,000. Not to mention that the laptop isn't worth $2,000 today. It was 3 or 4 months ago. So I'm automatically protected. So remember the issue with negative equity, you're basically protected. Now, burial plots, that's another important one. Florida again doesn't make anything distinguishing when it comes to that type of asset. That's just considered another piece of property, and it's kind of sad when I have a client who's older and their spouse have died, and I'm like, yeah, that plot's worth money. You're gonna have to buy it back, and now they're not gonna be buried next to their spouse. I mean, it is sad, but this is a business. Trustees are ruthless. They could care less. They have to protect even if they care, they have to protect the bankruptcy estate. So keep that in mind. Alaska does protect bureau plots, so that's a good thing. If you're in another state and you're watching this video, look it up just to make sure. Every state is different. Some offer no protection. Florida, some do offer a protection to X amount. So keep that in mind. All right. So again, I'll put all those links in the description of this video. And finally, as always, students who use my textbook in your bankruptcy law class, likewise, you're always free to chime in and ask any questions. Just post them in the comment section below. All right, everybody, take care, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my videos, and if you have any questions, go ahead and post them. Take care.